12 cities where rent just crashed 30%. Landlords are panicking. You know what's absolutely hilarious? For the last 3 years, landlords have been telling renters if you don't like the price, move. Rent went up 40% during the pandemic. Take it or leave it. Market forces, baby. And now rent is crashing in a dozen major cities. And those same landlords are offering 3 months free rent, waived application fees, free parking, and practically begging people to sign leases. Some are even throwing in gift cards. I'm talking about places where rent went from $3,000 a month to $2,000. Where luxury apartments that were fully leased 2 years ago now have 20% vacancy. Where landlords who bought buildings at the peak are quietly panicking because the math doesn't work anymore. This is the rent correction nobody wanted to talk about, and it's beautiful. So today, we're going through 12 cities where rent just crashed hard enough that landlords are actually experiencing consequences for the first time in a decade. Because someone needs to document the moment when supply and demand finally worked in renters' favor. Let's get into it. Here's what happened and why this rent crash is real. During COVID, everyone with a laptop job fled expensive coastal cities for cheaper Sun Belt metros. Austin, Phoenix, Boise, Tampa, all these places saw massive population influxes. Landlords and developers thought the boom would last forever. So they built, and built, and built. Luxury apartments going up on every corner. 5-over-1s everywhere. All of them priced for the incoming California and New York remote workers making 6 figures. The problem? 3 things happened simultaneously. First, companies started forcing return to office. Those remote workers who moved to Austin for cheap living suddenly had to choose between moving back to the office or finding new jobs. Second, interest rates skyrocketed, making home buying impossible and forcing more people to rent, which should have helped landlords accept. Third, all those new apartments finished construction at the same time. Suddenly you had 10,000 new luxury units hitting the market in cities where population growth had already slowed. Supply exceeded demand. Vacancy rates spiked. And landlords who were used to raising rent 10% every year discovered that the market can also go down. The cities on this list are experiencing the most dramatic corrections. These aren't tiny decreases. These are 20 to 30% rent declines in some neighborhoods. These are vacancy rates hitting 15 to 20%. These are landlords offering concessions they swore they'd never offer. And here's the thing. This isn't necessarily permanent. Markets can correct back up. But right now, in this moment, renters have leverage they haven't had in years. And landlords are learning a painful lesson about what happens when you overbuild for a temporary boom. Number 12, Charlotte, North Carolina, starting with the city that thought it was the next Atlanta and built like it. Rent in Charlotte has dropped 10 to 15% from peak in many areas. Luxury one-bedrooms that were going for $1,800 are now listing for $1,500 to $1,600. Vacancy rates in new buildings are around 12 to 15%. Charlotte went all in on luxury development. Banking jobs, cheap living compared to New York. All the finance brothers were supposed to move there. And some did, but not enough to fill all the buildings. Now landlords are offering a month free, sometimes 2 months free. Waived admin fees. They're negotiating. In Charlotte, a city where landlords have been ruthless for years. The correction is real, but Charlotte will probably stabilize. It's still a growing city, just not growing as fast as developers bet it would. Charlotte is where Southern banking met Northern overbuilding. Number 11, Salt Lake City. Utah's Salt Lake went from affordable mountain city to why is rent so high in about 5 years. Now it's correcting. Rent has dropped 10 to 12% in many neighborhoods. Studios and one-bedrooms in new buildings that were going for $1,400 to $1,600 are now listing for $1,200 to $1,400. Vacancy is around 10 to 12%. Salt Lake City boomed during COVID. Tech workers, remote workers, people who wanted mountains and Mormons instead of traffic. Developers built for them. And then some of those people left when remote work ended or they realized Utah winter is real. Landlords are offering concessions. Reduced deposits. Free parking which used to cost extra. In Salt Lake City, where housing has been tight for years, this is notable. The city is still growing but the rent spike was unsustainable. This correction is painful for landlords, but probably healthy long-term. Salt Lake is where the beehive state built too many hives. Number 10. Las Vegas. Nevada. Vegas bet big on remote workers and lost. Rent has declined 12 to 18% depending on location. One-bedrooms that peaked at $1,500 to $1,700 are now $1,200 to $1,400 in many buildings. Vacancy rates are around 15% in newer complexes. Vegas was supposed to be the affordable dessert alternative. No state income tax, warm weather, actual city amenities, and people did move there during COVID. But Vegas is still fundamentally a service economy city. And when remote work reversed, a lot of people left. Landlords build assuming the remote work boom was permanent. It wasn't. Now they're stuck with expensive buildings and not enough tenants to fill them. Concessions are everywhere. 1 month free is standard. 2 months free exists. Gift cards for signing. Waived fees. Vegas landlords are hustling like they're trying to get you into a timeshare presentation. Vegas is where what happened in Vegas didn't stay in Vegas. It left. Number 9. Sacramento. California's Sacramento became the Bay Area overflow city and built accordingly. Now it's overbuilt. Rent is down 10 to 15% from peak. One-bedrooms in new buildings that were going for $1,700 to $1,900 are now $1,500 to $1,700. Vacancy in new construction is around 12 to 15%. Sacramento's whole pitch was live here, work remote for Bay Area salary. Developers believed it. They built thousands of units for Bay Area refugees. And then companies said come back to the office. Now Sacramento has all this inventory and not enough people who want to pay Bay Area adjacent prices to live in Sacramento. Because Sacramento is fine, but it's not the Bay. Landlords are offering concessions and negotiating. In California, where landlords have had absolute power for decades, that's how you know the correction is real. Sacramento is where being close to San Francisco stopped being enough. Number 8. Dallas. Texas. Dallas, built like the entire state of California, was moving there. Turns out it was more like a medium-sized city's worth. Rent has dropped 15 to 20% in many neighborhoods. Luxury one-bedrooms that were going for $1,600 to $1,800 are now $1,300 to $1,500. Some areas worse. Vacancy is around 15 to 18% in new buildings. Dallas went absolutely insane with development during COVID. Every real estate investor in America thought Dallas was the next big thing. And Dallas is growing, but not fast enough to absorb all the supply that hit the market. Landlords are panicking. Multiple months free rent. Waived everything. Some buildings are basically negotiating whatever it takes to get butts in units. The irony is Dallas is still a good city with a strong economy. The problem was just massive overbuilding based on hype. Dallas is where everything's bigger, including the vacancy rates. Number 7. Nashville. Tennessee. Nashville became the hot destination for everyone tired of cold weather and high taxes. Then developers built for everyone who ever considered moving. Rent has declined 15 to 20% from peak in many areas. One-bedrooms that were going for $1,700 to $1,900 are now $1,400 to $1,600. Vacancy in luxury buildings is around 15 to 20%. Nashville had a moment. Music City. No state income tax. Southern charm. Tech companies opening offices. Bachelor and bachelorette parties every weekend. And rent went crazy. Developers saw that and built like the boom would last forever. It didn't. Population growth slowed. Remote work ended. And suddenly Nashville had way too many luxury apartments. Landlords are offering everything. Free rent, reduced deposits. They'll probably let you bring your band to rehearse in the apartment at this point. Nashville is where the music stopped, but the rent kept going down. Number 6. Raleigh-Durham. North Carolina. The Research Triangle thought it was immune to corrections because tech and universities. It was not immune. Rent is down 15 to 20% in many newer buildings. One-bedrooms that peaked at $1,600 to $1,800 are now $1,300 to $1,500. Vacancy is around 15 to 18% in new construction. Raleigh-Durham has good bones, research, universities, tech presence. But developers overbuilt assuming growth would continue at pandemic pace. It didn't. Remote workers left. Some tech hiring slowed. And all these new buildings finished construction around the same time, creating a supply glut. Landlords are offering serious concessions. Multiple months free, waived fees, negotiable everything. In a market that was seller's market for years, Raleigh-Durham is where the triangle got a bit too equilateral. Number 5. Tampa, Florida. Tampa wanted to be Miami without Miami prices. Then it built Miami-level supply without Miami-level demand. Rent has crashed 15 to 25% in many areas. One-bedrooms that were going for 18 to 20 are now 15 to 1700. Vacancy is around 18 to 22% in new luxury buildings. Tampa boomed during COVID. Everyone moving to Florida. Remote work. No state income tax. Warm weather. Developers built thousands of units. And then reality hit. Insurance costs exploded. Hurricane risk is real. Summer is miserably hot. Remote work ended. And people realize Tampa is fine, but it's not actually Miami. Landlords are desperate. 3 months free is happening. Massive concessions. Negotiating on everything. Because vacancy is killing them. Tampa is where the Florida dream met Florida reality and Florida oversupply. Number 4. Jacksonville. Florida. Jacksonville is having a similar crisis to Tampa, but with less media attention. Rent is down 20 to 25% in many new buildings. One-bedrooms that peaked at 15 to 1700 are now 12 to 1400. Vacancy in new construction is around 20 to 25%. Jacksonville was supposed to be affordable Florida, and developers built like everyone in the Northeast was moving there. Some people did. Not enough. Now Jacksonville has thousands of empty luxury apartments and landlords who are genuinely struggling because they built buildings with debt based on rents that no longer exist. Concessions are everywhere. Free rent, waived everything, gift cards. They're basically paying people to move in at this point. Jacksonville is where Florida's least famous major city learned a painful supply and demand lesson. Number 3. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is experiencing one of the more dramatic corrections because the boom was so intense. Rent has dropped 20 to 30% in many areas. Luxury one-bedrooms that were going for 19 to 20 are now 15 to 1700. Some neighborhoods worse. Vacancy is around 20 to 25% in new buildings. Phoenix was the pandemic darling. Everyone fleeing California. Cheap desert living. No California taxes. Developers built like the gold rush was permanent. Then people remember Phoenix summer is actually hell. Like genuinely dangerous. And remote work ended. And all those Californians either went home or realized they made a mistake. Landlords are panicking, offering everything. Multiple months free. Reduced rent. Negotiating. Because vacancy is crushing them and mortgage payments don't care about vacancy. Phoenix is where the sun always shines on empty apartments. Number 2. Boise, Idaho. Boise is the poster child for pandemic boom and post-pandemic bust. Rent has crashed 25 to 35% from peak in many areas. One-bedrooms that were going for 15 to 1700 are now 11 to 1300. Some places worse. Vacancy in new buildings is around 25 to 30%. Boise went from boring affordable Idaho city to hottest housing market in America to oversupply disaster in about 5 years. Developers built like the entire Bay Area was relocating. People did move there during COVID. Then remote work ended. Or they realized Boise is actually pretty boring if you're not into outdoor stuff. Or they couldn't handle the winter. And they left. Landlords are offering absolutely everything. Free rent for months. Waived fees. They're basically begging. Because the buildings are empty and the economics are brutal. Boise is where the boom turned to bust faster than anywhere else. Number 1. Austin, Texas at number 1. The city with the most dramatic rent crash and the most panicked landlords. We have Austin. Rent has dropped 25 to 35% from peak depending on neighborhood. Luxury one-bedrooms that were going for 22 to 2500 at peak are now 16 to 1800. Some areas have seen even bigger drops. Vacancy in new luxury buildings is around 25 to 35%. Some buildings are practically empty. Austin was the ultimate pandemic boom city. Tech workers. California exodus. Remote work paradise. Joe Rogan moved there. Developers lost their minds and built like Austin was going to be the next San Francisco. Then companies forced return to office. Tesla, Oracle, and other companies that brought people there started demanding in-person work. Remote workers left, and Austin was left with tens of thousands of luxury apartments and not nearly enough people to fill them. Landlords are in full panic mode. 3 months free rent is standard. 4 months free exists. Waived application fees, admin fees, deposits. Some places are throwing in furniture, gift cards, anything to get people in. The economics are brutal. Buildings that were bought or built assuming $2,500 rents now have to accept $1,700. That math doesn't work when you have debt. Austin is where Keep Austin Weird became Keep Austin Leased, and even that's not working. So what does this all mean? First, supply and demand still works. When you massively overbuild based on temporary pandemic migration patterns, you get vacancy and rent crashes. That's not complicated. That's just math. Second, landlords made a bet that the pandemic boom was permanent. They were wrong, and now they're paying the price, which is completely fair. That's how markets are supposed to work. Third, this is great for renters in these cities. If you live in Austin or Phoenix or Boise, you have leverage you haven't had in years. Negotiate, ask for concessions, shop around. Landlords need you more than you need them right now. Fourth, this probably won't last forever. Eventually supply and demand will rebalance, but that could take years. New construction has slowed, but there's still tons of inventory to absorb. And fifth, this is a reminder that real estate isn't a one-way bet. Landlords and investors thought rent could only go up. Markets reminded them otherwise. For renters, enjoy the moment. Lock in good deals while you can. For landlords, well, this is what happens when you overbuild for a temporary boom. So there you have it. 12 cities where rent crashed hard enough that landlords are actually panicking. This is a market correction. Nothing more, nothing less. These cities overbuild based on unsustainable pandemic migration. Now they're dealing with the consequences. Some of these cities will recover faster than others. Austin probably stabilizes eventually. Boise might take longer. But all of them are experiencing a painful lesson in supply and demand. For renters in these cities, this is your moment. You have leverage. Use it. Negotiate, get concessions, sign good deals, because this window probably won't last forever. For landlords, well, you made a bet. The bet didn't work out. That's capitalism. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you overbuild for a temporary remote work boom and watch vacancy rates hit 30%. The financial reality is brutal for landlords who bought at the peak. They're underwater. The math doesn't work, and they can't just wait it out because mortgage payments keep coming. So here's my question for you. If you're renting in one of these cities, are you actually seeing these rent drops and concessions? Or are landlords still trying to hold the line? And if you're a landlord in one of these markets, how bad is it really? Let me know in the comments, because this correction is still playing out in real time. And if you enjoyed watching landlords learn about market forces the hard way, maybe subscribe. We cover housing markets, economic corrections, and Schadenfreude disguised as analysis. Someone has to document the rent crash. Might as well be me.